This bit at the beginning of John chapter 2 is so great. Something I want to point out first is the third day. Remember when we've already read a 3-day deal earlier when we read that Jesus lingered in Jerusalem, and when they realized that Jesus wasn't in their company, they spent 3 days' journey going back to Jerusalem. Now here's another third day thing. Now this is also, there's a lot of very, very interesting things, and it goes way deeper than anything that I'm going to even be able to express here. There's a friend of mine on YouTube who I'll probably call over to this video and have him take a look and ask him to comment with some of the other things that he pointed out to me at one time that I can't even remember all of them, because the Lord showed him a whole bunch of stuff. A few of these things I'm going to mention are things that he pointed out to me, but first off, this part here, this gives the impression that Jesus must have done things, you know, signs and wonders sort of things, before Mary, because when she says they have no wine, you know, Jesus responds in that he knew what she was getting at, and he says, you know, mine hour is not yet come. It's also interesting in that I don't know if it was revealed to Jesus when his hour was come, or if he knew aforehand when his hour was to come. You would think must be not, and that God must have, between the time of saying this and then him doing it, that God allowed him and made him realize that his hour was come. Unless that's not the hour he's talking about, unless he's talking about the hour of his death and revealing himself. I'm not sure, but this was his first miracle, of course. But then she had faith to recognize that he was able to do it, and she tells the guys, you know, whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And now, here's where it gets interesting. There were 6 water pots of stone. 6 is the number of man. You can say that these water pots would represent man. 6 water pots. And Jesus saith unto them, fill the water pots with water. Jesus is the water of life. We are filled with the Holy Spirit of God. Holy Spirit and Jesus, you know, basically one and the same, although Jesus is the bodily form of God. Holy Spirit is our comforter who can fill us. But fill the water pots with water. And they filled them to the brim, and he said unto them, draw out now and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. And when the rulers of the feast tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew. That's an interesting and cool phrase, too, because it's like the sower of the seed, the recipients of God's salvation, giving knowledge of God. That's kind of what these servants represent, too, the servants of God who understand what's going on, the transformation of a human life from death unto life when they accept Jesus as Lord and accept and understand his work. Only through the Holy Spirit can we do that. It's not by works of righteousness which we have done, but by his mercy he has saved us. So even the act of understanding, drawing nigh unto God and having him draw nigh unto you and reveal himself to you through his Holy Spirit, that's not a work. God imparts to us salvation. We have a change of heart. We draw nigh to God. That's it. God reveals to us so that we know. But the servants which drew the water knew. And then this testimony of the change by the governor of the feast. So, like I said, I'm going to ask a friend of mine to come along. I have a curiosity about the placement of this and where it's being read, along with what's coming up next. And I'll make another quick thoughts video about that coming up next also.